There is a Solution for That is sponsored by VARC Solutions. VARC Solutions helps small businesses succeed by delivering expert QuickBooks bookkeeping, consulting, quick-base development, and integrated solutions. If you own a small to medium-sized business that uses QuickBooks or QuickBase, the experts at VARC Solutions can help. In business since 1999, with people who care and the knowledge and experience to solve your toughest problems. Visit VARCsolutions.com for all your QuickBooks needs. Welcome back to another edition of There's a Solution for That, where we help small businesses succeed by discussing challenging business problems and best-in-class solutions. All right, welcome everybody to the latest episode of There's a Solution for That. We've got, as always, an amazing guest to talk with us on our show today. The topic really today is how to instill loyalty, how to grow customer loyalty. And I'm sure there's going to be a number of ways that we're going to be able to do that. But one way is through some of the things that we do to market our business. And so we've got a Fractional Chief Marketing Officer, Sheila Butler, on our show today. So Sheila, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. And first, let's just kind of kick it back to you. And what are your thoughts on customer loyalty? Like, how did you get into that as being maybe a focus within your marketing company?
So it's interesting. I started out my career in entertainment at Disney, and I'd taken one marketing class in college. So I really knew very, very little about marketing. But after stage managing about 800 performances at Disney in parades and on stage shows and what have you, and working on about 60 special events, I needed to do something different. And I was craving to learn about the strategy of how you create a brand promise and how do you differentiate your brand through experience. And so I had an opportunity to go and work on a team called Special Events Development in the Disney Marketing Group. And I tell you what, that was like a masterclass in branding when I was in marketing at Disney. So first it was developing special events for the theme parks that reinforced the point of difference for each of the parks and explained why someone needed to go to Animal Kingdom versus Epcot and so forth, right? And then I moved into the launch of the cruise line business and then finally Disney Synergy. And after I left Disney, I found myself at a tech startup. It bombed in like a year. And so I went back to corporate America, and Bank One was hiring, and I was in the Philadelphia area at the time. So 3 weeks into my job at Bank One, on the partnership side, they pulled me aside and they said, "Hey, your former employer put out an RFP for a credit card." And we responded and we didn't get selected in the cut. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I've worked in credit cards for 3 weeks now. I'm not really sure why you pulled me aside to have this conversation.
You're like,
And
how is this related to me?
right, exactly. What? How is this a me thing? And they said, "Well, we need your help." And I go, "But I don't know anything about credit cards, but I can take anything you want to say and I can spin it into Disney." So we rewrote the entire RFP and convinced Disney to give it another shot, another look. And I spent a year with a team of 3 other people negotiating the deal for the Disney Visa credit card. And then we were to build out the entire loyalty platform for the value prop of the card and the soft benefits of private character meet and greets with a digital photo and all these different things. And so that's how I got introduced to loyalty, was actually through the credit card lens. And building that out for the first time. Disney didn't have a loyalty program. So if you're going to spend on a card, what do you get for it? You know?
Right. Well, I know I've been to Disney, and we've gotten those. We got all the emails about coming back to Disney. Bring your family again. Do all these different things and sign up for points. So, um, well, I mean, you Disney does a lot of things right, and I think anybody knows Disney as a very, very good marketing company as well. So obviously there's a lot of things you were able to pick up through that experience. So what are some of those? Obviously you don't take us through the entire like credit card message, but what are some of maybe the concepts that you applied to that message that wasn't there before?
Yep. So it's funny because today's the 22nd anniversary of the launch of the card. And we did some things that I've not seen any companies do, at least in recent years. So I'll explain a couple things. One, we created a pre-launch strategy so that people knew that the card was about to come out, but it was called a Disney secret. And it had this art of Mickey Mouse carrying this suitcase with a lock on it. And it was just his little glove. So we told everyone, sign up if you want to hear about what the Disney secret is when we launch it on the first day. And then we worked with Visa and said for anyone who gets the card in the first like day, but really it was probably like 2 weeks, you had something embossed on your card that said day one that Visa had never done before and they've never done since. And then we also got permission to emboss underneath someone's name, charter card member, if you got it for the first year. So this was free for us to do pretty much. And yet it created this emotional tie and connectedness in a couple ways. One, when a cast member saw the card and accepted it at the Disney store or at the park store at the cruise line, they would say, "Wow, Brad, you're a charter card member. You're a day one card member. You must like love Disney, be a huge Disney enthusiast." So there was a recognition and an acknowledgement of the loyalty program in a really meaningful moment for someone. Two, it created stickiness. So there are people to this day that will not close that credit card account. And you have to spend on it every couple of years or your new credit card company shut it down.
Right.
They still keep that card open because if you close it, you never get day one back. You never get charter card member back.
Wow. Well, I mean, so that kind of goes beyond like customer sense, fill in the blank date, right? That's interesting because yeah, I mean, I've got some cards where I look at that and go, okay, that yeah, 1998. Wow, I've had that card for a long time, but there's a big difference, I think, just to kind of re-say something that I heard you say, which I think is fascinating, is it's not just so much about having this card that's got the information on it. It's how that it has been extended to the organization so that when somebody shows up, everybody knows what that is,
Yes.
versus you go check out and somebody takes the card, swipes it, and gives it back and doesn't even say anything,
Right.
right? So
Yes.
it's
So
it's cohesive type of message.
yes, and then I will add, because I think loyalty is all around building out an emotional connection. And that's really what branding is too, which is why my business, Butler Marketing Group, we specialize in those two things amongst a few other things. But the other element is a couple years later, we convinced Disney to actually let us use the characters on the credit card. So the original card was just a red card with a Mickey head, like the Mickey shape, and then some pixie dust stars and whatever. But when we convinced them to actually let us use Mickey and Donald and all sorts of characters on the card, the sales skyrocketed. So we had a lift in acquisitions of around 30%, but we
Hmm.
also had a lift in sales. And then when we were able to differentiate so that I had a different card than my authorized user, you got even more lift in spend on the card. Why? Because it's a conversation piece. Because when you hand your credit card to someone or you tap it, people notice the card design. And if it's different, if it's Darth Vader on a card, I tell you what, someone's going to say that is a good looking credit card, which no one ever says, but it is a badass looking card. It's
That's
it's so
cool.
it's really sharp. And so it creates this again, this connection, someone feeling seen and recognized. That's part of what loyalty is all about.
Wow. Well, let's talk more about that because now you've got me really curious. So how do you apply that to a non-Disney type of environment, company, business, whatever, where maybe they don't have that worldwide brand recognition and they don't have a billion people that have probably visited the park. So how do you make that same emotional connection so that it is that conversation piece?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think at the end of the day, it's someone wants to feel seen and recognized and appreciated and value for being a patron of your business. And so, for example, I ran global loyalty and partnerships for several years at Choice Hotels. And so people were trained to recognize the loyalty member when they checked in at the hotel. And based upon your loyalty tiers, it may unlock certain things at the hotel. It may unlock an amenity. It may unlock a welcome gift when you check into the property. But again, it creates this conversation. So regardless of whether or not your business is in hospitality or anything else, you can still find ways to know your customers, know something about them, have a database if you have the ability to do so, with some information about your customer so that you can create the moments where you create a connection with that customer. And to the extent that they have spent with you and been with you for many years, you can think about very special things that you can do for them. Again, they don't have to cost money. I'll share an example with you of another loyalty program. So IHG, Intercontinental Hotels Group, does a phenomenal job with their Kimpton brand on recognizing people. And one day after I checked in, the actually was checking in, and the concierge said, "I really hope you love your room. We gave you an upgrade, but I can't wait to hear what you think about your room." And I thought, well, this is a little odd. Okay, it's a room, it's a bed, right? It's got a bathroom. It's a bed, and it's a hotel room. So I come back down and I'm laughing and I go, wow, you really went over the top. So they had a database to where you could store in your profile things that you liked. And so it said, like, do you want like red wine in your room or champagne? Do you like chocolate? Like, what do you like? And it said anything else. And so I specifically, because I've been in the loyalty business for a long time, I will test to see whether brands are actually paying attention to my
Hmm.
profile to see whether or not they actually pick on something. So I put Mickey Mouse and George Clooney. And I tell you what, when I walked into that hotel room, I saw this 4x6 frame with a picture of George Clooney, and he's holding this dog. It's his picture on the internet. And it says, "I wish you were this puppy." So he's like cuddling this little puppy.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I walk into the bathroom and there's another 4x6 frame and it says, "I see you." And it's another picture of George Clooney. The last one was, there were four. The last one was on the bed next to the pillows and it said, "Lay here with me." So I came back down to the front desk and I'm
You're like, this is
laughing.
getting a little personal here. That's
And
funny.
so she had such a great time because she saw my profile. She thought I could do something fun. So she literally just went down the block to CVS, bought four cheap frames, printed out four George Clooney pictures in the span of 5 minutes. And then she had gone on my LinkedIn profile and she was trying to superimpose my head in a picture with him and a female just to like put a bow on it and couldn't figure out how to do it. So my whole point in sharing this story is I'm still talking about this, and this was probably 10 or 12 years ago. It cost her nothing but a few minutes.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, so one, it's creative, it's personal,
Mhm.
and I think it does what you said, right? Which is it creates the emotional connection that transcends the moment, right? Even you're 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later, continuing to talk about it. So I'm gonna throw out a few thoughts kind of related to our business, and I'm like, okay, well, how could I do this in our business? And for folks that are listening to this show, we've got folks that are in construction, we've got folks that are in um, landscaping, attorneys, property management. We've got all these different industries. So I imagine people that are listening to this are thinking to themselves, gosh, what could I do? What could I do? I mean, to me, I don't know every single thing about my clients, maybe on that personal level. And so that's like an action item for me. It's like, how do we go back and get some more, like, how do we get real information? So I want to dive into that one in a little bit more detail here in a second. But just the thought off the top of my head is, okay, somebody calls into our office and we actually have somebody that answers the phone, which is versus a phone tree, dial one, dial three, dial five, that kind of thing. And how cool would it be just to be able to answer the phone and be able to say, "Oh, hey, John, thanks for calling. I noticed you've been a loyal customer of ours since 2010." That's
Exactly.
different and better than just, I'm sorry, who is this? Okay, yeah, let me get you to the next person, right?
Exactly.
Um, so that doesn't take, like you said, it doesn't have to take a lot of time or money. But so that's an example, right? That's just a really simple thing that we could do, right? If we just took a little bit of time and energy. So let me kind of go one level deeper there. So let's say I'm a company and I haven't taken the time to figure out like who my customers are and what are those things like George Clooney for you?
Yeah.
How do you get a customer to open up, and maybe like what are some of the ways that you approach them about that so that you can start getting the information to turn into special moments?
So honestly, you're probably getting the information. You may not be necessarily either realizing it and processing and thinking about it. You know how like often when someone's speaking, the other person is really thinking, what am I going to say next? Where's this going? How long is this going to take? Right? Versus truly actively listening.
Yeah.
So you may be getting some of this information without even realizing it. And then two, you document it as easily as that is. After the customer interaction, write down a few things. If you're a landscaper and you have repeat customers, if you know that they love roses and you see something new, you can always reach out and be like, hey, I just saw this beautiful rose. I don't know if you need me to come back again soon, but I think it'd be fantastic in your yard, because they always order roses. Like it doesn't have to be sophisticated or complicated or over engineered. I will say, back to a Disney anecdote. Years ago, the Disney Reservation Center used to have to call in to book your Disney reservation. And it takes about 45 minutes to book a trip over the phone. You're asking about the different hotels and the packages and do kids eat and all different things. And so, in the course of that 45-minute conversation, someone's telling you stories. My kids are so and so's having a birthday, and you're like, how old is your kid?
Hmm.
And we're coming down for our anniversary, all these different things. We live in New Jersey, blah, 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 blah. The Disney Reservation Associate back in the day, the cast member was writing down all these notes, Brad, like blah, 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 all about Brad and his family. And then at the end of the 45 minutes, they took the piece of paper and they tossed it in the trash can.
Hmm.
Someone just gave you gold of information, all these different
Yeah.
stories, all these different things where you can create points of loyalty and connection with people.
Hmm.
And so over time, they started collecting this information in a database. And so then you can have a welcome amenity delivered to their room that's, again, a free picture of Mickey Mouse that says, hiya, pal, happy birthday, with the kid's name on it. And that makes a meaningful connection with someone and makes them feel seen and recognized and special. It's just tracking that information.
No, that is fantastic. I mean, that is just so awesome. My mind is spinning with ideas. I'm like, after this podcast is recorded, I'm like, I'm gonna have my team watch it. It's like, this is a good one. Apply these things, and what can I do to help? Um, no, it's
And by the way, you just start by starting. You don't have to be
yeah.
like, oh, what software should I get? And blah, blah, blah. Keep it in an Excel spreadsheet right now. And then use whatever CRM platform you want over time.
But
Attorneys hear all sorts of stories all day long, every day. You're part of someone's life.
yeah, I mean, it's so true, and it's like the conversations between the work, so to speak, right? So, like before the show, I mentioned that we do bookkeeping, right? And so we have clients on the phone all the time, with our QuickBooks experts, and I'm sure half the time they're talking about how do you code this transaction and how do you reconcile this other thing, but in the middle of all that, yeah, there's a, oh, how's your Aunt Jean? Oh, you just had a pup. You've got a golden retriever and it just had puppies. How many puppies? Oh,
Right.
that's cute. That's what you're talking about, is
Yes.
being able to capture that stuff organically.
Yes.
Um, Simple tracking of the notes so that that stuff can be recalled, integrated somewhat, somehow, some way, in future conversations. That's really awesome. So do you recommend, or do you not recommend, a more I don't know what you call that, purposeful outreach trying to get that information, or is it purely organic, is maybe the best way of doing it?
I think you can start in any direction. If you have a platform to where someone has the ability to share their contact information, capture a few more data elements. But what I would say is if you ask someone for their information, be purposeful about how you're going to use it. Don't ask for things you're not going to use. If you ask for their birth date, then there better be a reason why and a recognition of their birthday because you asked. So think about the things that you would want to know. If maybe if it's a landscaper, what are your favorite types of colors, or do you like high maintenance or low maintenance with your yard? Different types of things so that you can customize and tailor your solution for that person.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome.
And
Okay.
I'll share another anecdote with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I enjoy loyalty programs and building them and optimizing them, I also test them out in different ways. So, when I lived in the Philadelphia area, I was in a burb of Philly, and there were three different restaurants that all had very different loyalty platforms. And I decided I'm just going to test my consumer behavior and see what drives more loyalty and what choices do I make based upon their marketing to me. So I joined a loyalty program for a regional pizza company, a well-known Chinese restaurant chain, and then a well-known Italian restaurant chain. And they're all pretty much in the same pricing.
Right.
So the pizza place would send me coupons, and I pretty much could bet on the fact that I'm going to get a coupon on a Thursday or a Friday that's good through the weekend. And it's
Hmm.
probably like buy two pizzas for the price of one kind of thing. Okay. Then the Chinese restaurant chain would send me an offer from time to time that says, hey, come in and try this free appetizer with the purchase of an entree. The Italian restaurant, and again, they're all in the same radius, so I don't have to drive any farther.
Right.
The Italian restaurant didn't have that. What they did was they would invite their best customers to a wine dinner from time to time. It maybe happened twice a year. And so they were looking at recency of your stay, frequency, and how much you're spending. So RFM, recency, frequency, monetary. And then they would curate a luncheon with four courses paired with wines for each course. And then they often tied it to a charity raffle or fundraiser. Which one do you think I spent more time going to?
I'm gonna think the Italian
Yes. Why?
one.
Because I'm seen and I'm recognized, and they're doing something special for me.
Yeah, it's not just a generic coupon, buy one, get one.
It's an emotional connection.
Yeah. No, I love that. What great concepts. That's I mean, yeah, I mean we've done I know like we've done lunch and learns, where we've invited local clients, because
Right.
we have clients nationwide. So we've invited local ones to come in and do some stuff, tried to educate and things like that. But it's still, I mean, based on what you're saying, it's still just not as personal as is maybe even what you're suggesting, and in terms of that emotional connection. So it gives me a lot of things to think about for sure for our business, right?
Right.
Which we're just one of 100 million companies out there that are trying to do better at this stuff.
Yeah.
So well, let's shift gears for a second. Let's talk about um, what do you do when you're in a business and maybe you've had some missteps, right? You've had some customer failures. Maybe you didn't do the work right. Maybe you messed up. Maybe you overbilled somebody. You didn't fix it. Even like you've got a little bit of a history where things aren't great, or people don't have that immediate loyalty to you. How do you go about rebuilding some of that stuff, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think service recovery is key. In fact, there are statistics that say if you had something that went wrong, we're just going to use Disney as an example. So let's say you had something go wrong that day at the park. The intent to recommend and intent to return is greater than someone who didn't have a bad experience if there's service recovery that is immediate and sincere. So let's say I have this incident at the park, whatever it may be, at lunch or something. The ability for that person, whoever you're interacting with, to recognize, apologize, create something that is a make good. And again, it doesn't have to be expensive or grand. As long as you truly solve what the issue is and do it immediately and sincerely, the intent to return for that guest is higher than if they had a great day at the park. So I think that it's owning it and seeing it, owning it, being sincere about it, and turning things around. I would also add that, one of the reasons why I think that it's important to create relationships, just in your interpersonal work, professional, I'm sorry, personal, is that at some point in time, things are going to go wrong. It's not going to go smooth sailing every day. And the ability that someone knows that Brad's a good guy. Like it was an off day for Brad. But that doesn't change the relationship because you've deeply created this relationship with your customers, and everybody gets a waiver on stuff from time to time.
Well, that's really, really good. So basically, notice, take immediate action, sincere is the word that you used, which I love. Um,
Be
but
accountable.
what I'm also hearing is empowering your team to take action, right? So this is not just, oh, the manager has to approve. Oh, no, my owner, my boss has to approve, right? I think
Right.
at the core level, you're talking about empowering people on the front lines, dealing with customers, working with customers to be able to resolve that stuff in the moment.
Yes. Can
It
I do a
remind
yes and? Can I build on that?
Yeah, for sure.
So I launched a YouTube show, and I've got the first two episodes live right now. And one of them, we talk a lot about leadership and service recovery.
Mm.
And at Disney, it's a massive, large organization. So you've got a cast of 100,000 employees, and when something goes wrong, when you walk up to an employee and say, "I lost my hat on Space Mountain," and you're like, "I just bought it this morning," right? So empowering the frontline employees to make good and to do the right thing in the moment without having to be, "I've got to go get my manager. Can you wait 10 minutes?" And you're like, "Man, I just want to get on the next ride. I'm annoyed now." Right. So think about this. I think that the training comes at the leadership level, and then it's empowering your employees to do the right thing, to make decisions that err on the side of the customer as best as they can, but within guardrails, right? You don't have to go crazy about it. We had this program at Disney called No Strings Attached. I don't know if it's still there now, but if you walked up to me and said, "Sheila, I just lost my hat on Space Mountain," and I'm like, my kids are like, they're cranky. We're about to lose our lunch reservation. Can you just help me?" There was this little card that I could walk into any merchandise location, and I would say, "Can I have a No Strings Attached card?" And I would say, "Brad, pick out any hat in the store, whatever you want. If we still have the one you bought, okay, great." You picked it out. I signed my name at my cost center, and off you went. That's it. Everyone was empowered to do the right thing. And in part of the discussion, I can't remember because I taped two shows with this guy, Rob Malden. We were talking about it, and he was saying, "I want good news fast, and I want bad news even faster." So if you have to pull in a leader, do it fast so they can support you and help resolve whatever their situation is. I'll add another story, and it's one of the episodes that hasn't gone live yet. And a guy named Barry Jacobson on, and he's got a deep experience in premium luxury experiences at Disney as well as at Dallas Cowboys and building out really special experiences for people. And he was saying that uh, there was a time when he was an assistant manager at the Contemporary Hotel, and the guests checked in, the room wasn't ready. They were about to miss their dinner reservation. And his boss said, "Barry, just send them up to the restaurant at the top of the hotel and tell the server that they can order whatever they want and get whatever wine they wanted." So turns out this was back, I think, in the 70s. So there were six adults, and they ended up buying multiple bottles of champagne and spending a lot of money.
I'm sure.
So Barry was empowered to do the right thing, but there weren't guardrails.
Hmm.
So what they learned from that is next time, which of course there's going to be a next time, it probably happened a week later. Whatever happened, send them upstairs and tell them that the sommelier will pick out a bottle of white for them and a bottle of red for the table. So you control your costs, you have some guardrails, but you're doing the right thing for your customer.
Yeah, no, I mean, these are great. These are great lessons learned and mistakes that other people have made that we can avoid. So I really appreciate that. Um, it reminds me, just a few weeks ago, I was actually at a one of these restaurants where you get in line and they make a bowl and it's got, rice and beans and different things like that. Um, and I was behind this lady that was at the checkout, and I started overhearing this argument about, queso, right? Like, she got queso on her bowl, but she apparently wanted a side of queso. And so they had this 5-minute argument about, did she order the queso or did she want it on the bowl? But because she got both, they're going to try to charge her for both. And she's like, I didn't want it on it.
Right.
And trust me, the next 5 weeks to the next 5 years, this person is only going to be complaining about being charged for queso.
Correct. Which
So
probably costs $1, if
yeah,
that.
if that, right? So, I'm just standing there looking at the person behind the desk, just going, okay, seriously, this is like you said, this is $1. Okay. You've created a bad emotional connection with your brand
Right.
versus a good one. So I think this could apply to a lot of different industries. I remember, I forget what company had this thing, but maybe you'll recognize this. But I remember another company doing something similar where they gave everybody in their company a budget. And for every year, or could be every month for all I know, every year they had a budget. And let's say it was $100 per employee, right? And the budget was kind of like that no strings attached type of concept, where it's like, if you've got a customer in front of you and they're not happy, you are allowed to spend up to $100 to do anything you want with no questions asked. Nobody's going to slap your hand. Take care of it as long as it's up to $100, no more than $100. So you got those guardrails. And I just thought that was fantastic. Just again, it's empowering.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And just think about, at the end of the day, that test that I did of my own behavior with the different restaurants, if you step back and really observe, where where do you frequent? Where do you invest your time, money? And start to step back and say, why? Do I like that experience with that brand, that company? What makes me behave that way? And who don't I spend time with? It's We all act very similarly.
Yep, we sure do.
But
We sure
what I
do.
will also add, because we haven't gone there yet, is loyalty, especially like a more of a structured loyalty program, can also be a motivator to entice your customers to do and exhibit the behaviors that you want them to exhibit. So when you structure loyalty programs and benefits, and even if you have those tiers to where actually after I have X amount of stays or X amount of dollars, it sort of unlocks additional benefits because I've gone from base member to now whatever these tiers are. You can structure that in a way to drive your business objectives and goals, be it revenue or frequency of customer interactions, average ticket size, all these different things. So you very much want to, if you build out a loyalty program, structure it with the intent of what are my business objectives and how can the loyalty program motivate people to do the things that maybe they don't even realize they want to do yet.
Wow. That's insightful. That's so this is not so loyalty program is just one way to get there, right? It's one way to get you thinking about how do we create these experiences with our very valued customers. Um, have you seen that translate into things like customer testimonials, more social sharing, like, oh my God, this was an amazing experience? And or do you go out and ask people for testimonials? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I think it's great to capture those as long as you have the permission to actually use them. I think that if you have a testimonial, it's great to actually have the person's picture if they will give you the permission to do so. Again, so that it feels very relatable, right? Like, oh, you look like, someone that I would know, even though I don't know you. Like, it just seems like, okay, Brad seems to be like a really good guy and he had a great experience. So I think that can be effective. I think user generated content can be effective as well for brands. One of the other people that I interviewed on my show for Marketing Over Bourbon, he started a group called Club D3, and it's AKA Disney Day Drinkers, so DDD. And there's a ton of user generated content to where people are coming and saying, hey, where's a great place? I'm coming down to Disney next week. Where's a great place to get a great espresso martini or have dinner and so forth? And then people are posing with their drinks and talking about the restaurants and who is a great server. So user generated content can help build your brand, but you also need to recognize the fact that it's out there and there's nothing you can do. You cannot manage that conversation.
Right. And which, yeah, I mean, in every, kind of going back to the beginning, every company's got really, really good experiences, and I'm sure there's some bad ones in there. We're all, fallible and make mistakes, and sometimes we don't get it right. So, yeah, you've kind of got to live with the good and the bad in the social age. So, but again, we've talked about how to create that emotional connection. We've talked about how to recover a little bit from failed service scenarios. As we kind of wrap up the show, any other kind of last suggestions or kind of like your best tips on how to get started with the loyalty program? Like, where do you start?
You know what? You don't have to make it big and complicated. Start by starting, as I said earlier. The if someone is thinking about, I'd like to try some things out with loyalty, think about what's an offer that you can provide to someone that is meaningful, that would be strategic about you demonstrating maybe an expansion of your services to someone. Doesn't cost a lot, but has a high perceived value. So thinking about that ratio, when I ran loyalty for a hotel company, we were looking at what's the cost per point and ensuring that the perceived value of the benefit of that point when you redeemed your points was exponentially higher.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like, okay, you earn 100 points, but you've got to have 30,000 points to be able to do anything worthwhile, that kind of a thing.
Make something obtainable, right? But
Yeah.
again, offer something of value that unlocks more of a connection with your customer. Try it. If it doesn't work, don't do it again.
Yeah.
But it's
No.
likely going to work, and then build upon it.
Well, I love it. I mean, this is all really, I mean, thinking outside the box, getting creative. But I think the core message that I'm hearing from you is really it's focusing on your customer, what's going to be beneficial to them, how are you going to raise the value of what you're doing to them, and how do you do it in a way that creates that meaningful connection beyond I do this for my business. This
Yes.
is the product I'm delivering. This is the service I'm delivering. It's like it has to go beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been great. Really appreciate your time, Sheila. So you've mentioned it a few times, but I definitely want to encourage everybody to go out and listen and subscribe to your show too. So it's
Yeah.
did you say it was marketing with bourbon?
Marketing over bourbon. It's like
Marketing over
it's a
bourbon.
literal brand promise. So I'm in the Orlando area. Most of my guests are former Disney folks that I worked with or have known since I left Disney. And we talk about lessons learned in our careers, the hard way and the easy way, and what we've done post life after Disney. And we land some marketing principles around brand promise or core values and marketing strategy work while we sip bourbon.
That's awesome. Well, sign me up for that one. And so if somebody wanted to connect with you to learn more about how you could help them with loyalty programs or just any other marketing things that you do,
Yeah.
what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
They can go to butlermg.com. It stands for Butler Marketing Group. They can find me on LinkedIn, Sheila Butler. So yeah, all good. Happy to help them whenever I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sheila, for coming on the show. Really appreciate you. And this is really good stuff that I think someone is listening to this show right now and they're like, I need to do that. And I know that I'm at least one of those people that's saying that right now. It's like I need to go do that. So thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for everybody else that's listening in and watching on YouTube as well, this has been great. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Keep subscribing, keep checking us in because we've got more and more topics coming to help you solve problems with your customers. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon. There is a Solution for That is produced by VARC Solutions. This episode was produced by Ashley White and Aaron Riley. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Watch the video version on youtube.com/there'sasolutionforthat. Or visit varcsolutions.com/podcast, where you'll find our entire podcast archive, as well as show notes, links to solution providers, and complete transcripts of every episode. If you love the podcast, please leave a review with your comments.